Muy buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon. I'm Felipe, and I just want to gauge the audience. Who here is a native Spanish speaker? Raise your hand. Who doesn't speak Spanish or... Because I'm... Okay, so it's going to be Spanglish for you guys. I'm gonna do it in Spanglish. So, this is not a technical presentation. We're gonna talk about an idea, and I want to plant this seed. Quiero plantar esta semilla porque no vamos a hablar, no es una presentación técnica, es un concepto, es una idea que quiero sembrar en la comunidad de Bitcoiners y en la comunidad que está interesada en la soberanía. Y ese es uno de los principales vehículos o los principales beneficios que obtenemos con Bitcoin, es la soberanía financiera. La parte de las balas, entiendo que es un tema y es un término quizá un poco sensacionalista, un poco provocador, si queremos ponerlo en esos términos. It's a little bit provoking topic. Bullets and Bitcoin, what's that all about? Vivo en Oklahoma. I'm living in Oklahoma right now. I was born in Mexico, nací en la Ciudad de México, vivo en Oklahoma, y estamos armados hasta los dientes. We're armed to the teeth in Oklahoma where I live. So just to put some context in my presentation today, here's my personal Twitter, which I post mostly in English. En español, Criptomonedas TV, donde publico prácticamente todo en español. Y vamos a hablar de los pilares de la soberanía. Este es un modelo que he estado afinando a lo largo de los años. Llevo 7 años con el podcast, 7 años activamente en la comunidad de Bitcoin y he estado refinando este modelo. It's a framework, 6 pillars of sovereignty and individual freedom. And what better place to talk about freedom than a Bitcoin conference? So, okay. So, ¿quién ha escuchado esta frase de que con Bitcoin es su propio banco? Who has heard the phrase that with Bitcoin you're your own bank? So pretty much everyone, that's like a mantra we hear over and over and over and over. And there was a time, and I'm old enough to remember, when banks used to have money. They used to have money. What the banks had, well, they had guns. And sorry that I don't put a gun in the image, but Google Slides wouldn't let me put an image of a gun. It would reset every time. Cada vez que trataba de poner una imagen de un arma de fuego en la presentación en Google, me eliminaba la imagen, entonces... Entonces, los bancos eran responsables de guardar el dinero y eran responsables de la seguridad. Banks were custodians and they were in charge of security. Now that security, la seguridad de los bancos se ha movido al entorno cibernético. Tienen unidades enteras dedicadas a la ciberseguridad. They have cybersecurity divisions, and that's where the value is now. It's not physical, so they don't have any cops with guns. In most banks, except for banks that do have money. So, si quieres saber si un banco tiene dinero o no, busca al policía en la entrada. If there's an armed guard in front of the bank, they do have money. Otherwise, it's just one illusion of custody. So, we hear over and over, escuchamos una y otra vez que somos nuestro propio banco, y con eso viene la responsabilidad de la seguridad. La seguridad en términos de si queremos realmente ser custodios de nuestro dinero, necesitamos poder custodiarlo. Necesitamos desarrollar las habilidades, los talentos para poder preservar nuestro propio patrimonio. Mucha gente, many of you English speakers are going to be very familiarized with this quote from Benjamin Franklin. He who renounces to freedom in exchange for security deserves neither. Quien renuncia a su libertad por seguridad no merece ninguna de las dos. Y este es un compromiso que hacemos constantemente en sociedades modernas, donde nos están orillando a renunciar a cada vez más libertades personales a cambio de esa promesa de seguridad. So in most modern societies, even what years ago were considered like functioning democracies, like Australia and Canada, New Zealand, they have been turning into real authoritarian places where people are giving more and more and more and more personal freedom in exchange of an illusion of security. En lugar de obtener esa seguridad, lo que están comprando es solo la ilusión de seguridad. Este concepto de Bitcoin y Balas y soberanía personal está vinculado íntimamente a el derecho fundamental que tenemos de preservar la vida. He platicado con mucha gente en muchos escenarios, en muchas circunstancias, y no he encontrado una sola persona que me diga no tenemos derecho a preservar la vida. And this concept that I have been testing with audiences everywhere, everyone comes to an agreement that we do have a fundamental right to preserve our life. That's given as human beings. As human beings, we have that fundamental right, and haven't found yet one person to question that or to disagree with that basic principle. Along the same lines, en la misma línea, tenemos el derecho a preservar el producto de tu trabajo. We have the fundamental right to preserve the fruit of our labor. That's what Bitcoin, it's the primary benefit. It's a form of labor preservation that cannot be eroded, that cannot be given without our express consent. Bitcoin es la forma de preservar el producto de nuestro esfuerzo y es la única, diría que es la propiedad privada en su forma más pura. Es Bitcoin. Y así como tenemos el derecho a preservar el producto de nuestro esfuerzo, tenemos el derecho a preservar nuestra vida. Ahí es donde entra el tema de las balas, que a mucha gente no le gusta, pero son solo dos de los pilares. Bitcoin y balas es un título muy provocativo, muy escandaloso para mucha gente. It's kind of a very bombastic title, Bitcoin and bullets. But really, it's just two of 6 pillars that in this framework that I have been developing over the years. And we have Bitcoin, we have financial freedom, we have self-determination and sovereignty. Bitcoin tenemos soberanía personal y ejercemos ese derecho a preservar el producto de nuestro trabajo. Las balas, which is basically you're your bank, you're your own bank, you're your own security. You have to be conscious, aware in your own circumstances, in your own environment, that you're your first responder. Yo soy el primer, soy la primera línea de defensa. Asumo esa responsabilidad personal por mi seguridad y por la seguridad de mi familia. No one's gonna come to save you. I have bad news for you. And it's kind of, has a very pessimistic undertone, but that's the reality. That's the reality we live. No one's going to come and save us. We have to save ourselves in many fronts, not just the physical aspect of security. Then the third B is bolillos, which is basically sustenance. Food, what you eat, how you preserve, how you manage to feed your body. And bolillos is basically a kind of French roll. Es como un pan mexicano, pero esa es la B del sustento. La siguiente es botica, que es básicamente poder atender una emergencia médica, hemorragias, fracturas, tener la competencia, la capacidad y los recursos para poder atender estas emergencias inminentes. No estamos hablando de cirugías complejas, pero básicamente poder salvar una vida o preservar una vida dominando técnicas básicas de primeros auxilios. Botica is what would be like the first aid, emergency, trauma, being knowledgeable and able and skilled to basically stabilize a broken bone, to stop bleeding, to perform just basic emergency response, to stabilize someone, to bring them to medical service. I'm not talking about performing self-surgery or anything like that, but that's the other pillar. Then biblioteca, which is library. Biblioteca es el conocimiento, habilidades, la información que necesitamos para no depender de terceros, para poder evaluar la información que recibimos, para poder almacenar y preservar. The idea of biblioteca, which is the library part, and by library I mean all the knowledge and information you need in order to become more and more self-sufficient. Para ser más autosuficiente necesitas información, conocimiento, habilidades. Entonces este pilar, la B de biblioteca, abarca este concepto. Algo que me ha preocupado en los últimos probablemente 2 años, quizá un poco menos, es la constante erosión de fuentes consensuadas de información. A lo que me refiero es que estamos experimentando un nivel de fractura social y balcanización donde ya los conceptos y los términos no significan lo mismo. In this process of fragmenting society, what I'm really observing and kind of worried is that terms have lost their meaning. They don't mean the same for different people, and this part of library is preserving that knowledge. One recommendation I do in pretty much every single podcast and for my live audience is buy books, buy physical books, preserve dictionaries, preserve all kind of information so we are able to discern the truth in a much better way than just the current trend in which dictionary meanings can change overnight. And terms like, it's gonna be touchy subject again, vaccines, the meaning is not the same anymore. Y el ejemplo de las vacunas que hemos discutido es el significado de la palabra vacuna ya no significa lo mismo que significaba hace 2 años. Y estos significados están cambiando muy rápido. Y esto distorsiona constantemente la realidad y nuestra capacidad de comunicar y construir la parte de la banda que es tu grupo, tu comunidad, tu familia, tu tribu. The last B of these 6 pillars of self-sufficiency and individual sovereignty, it's your band, your group, your tribe, your community, and the whole purpose of this framework is to strengthen our position as sovereign individuals. For me, that has been, this is the reflection. Esta ha sido es el reflejo de una jornada por la que empecé con Bitcoin como el dinero, la forma de pago, la tecnología. Y una vez que adoptas esta mentalidad y este principio de no confíes, verifica, tu visión del mundo y la relación que tienes con el análisis de los incentivos en sistemas financieros, en el contrato social, el aspecto legal, el aspecto de la seguridad, el aspecto de la alimentación, el sustento, en el aspecto de la práctica médica, se van modificando. Y esta es la semilla que quiero sembrar el día de hoy y compartir esta idea con ustedes. Now in English. So this 6 B's, it's a reflection of my journey through seeking more and more personal freedom, more and more self-reliance, more and more personal sovereignty. Everything starts with Bitcoin, which is like the technology, the liberation from a very, a system that is fundamentally stacked against everyone who earns a living working. That's pretty much given. But that brings me to the fundamental concept of do not trust, verify. And once you apply that to your relationship to other aspects of your everyday life, once you understand the absolute brilliance of the systems of incentives that Satoshi Nakamoto created, then you start analyzing what's going on with the financial sector. What are the incentives? What can we verify? What can we trust? And then you move on to the social contract, our interactions, the social dynamics, and then you move to the industry, all the food sector, nutrition, health, and then you not trust, you verify, you start analyzing the incentives, and then you move on to the knowledge and to the medical, and then to your community. So those are the 6 pillars of self-determination, sovereignty, and next I'm going to share a little bit how does it really looks like in your everyday life, because it can be probably intimidating or overwhelming. A continuación voy a platicar un poco cómo se ve esto en el día a día, porque puede ser muy abrumador. Vinimos aquí a hablar de Bitcoin y de repente estamos hablando de balas, de bolillos, de medicina, de primeros auxilios, y etcétera. Pero en el día a día es mucho más simple, es el ejercicio constante de esta mentalidad de tomar acciones que me permitan reducir mi dependencia de sistemas externos, sistemas que no controlo y que en muchas ocasiones están diseñados para trabajar en mi contra o en contra de cualquier persona que tenga un trabajo decente y un nivel de ética medianamente aceptable. Que ese es el reto que enfrentamos. Ese es el objetivo, reducir la dependencia de sistemas externos. De la misma forma que con Bitcoin reducimos nuestra dependencia de transmisores de dinero, de custodios, de créditos. Lo mismo aplicamos a otros aspectos de nuestra vida. So this is the end goal, and what I wish dearly to everyone sitting in this room is to be able to reduce your dependency on systems that are harming you, that are harming your family, and they're designed to work against you every turn, every time. So if you can do baby steps, if you can do little things in order to reduce, to minimize the impact of those systems, I can tell you, I can assure you that you're going to feel better about yourself, and you're going to have a much better relationship with the world around you, and we desperately need healthy, happy, and independent people. And that's my message. My end goal is to make as many people as possible aware of this possibility to become a sovereign individual. Takes effort, takes responsibility, takes chickens. I'm going to go to the chickens in a moment. Ese es mi mensaje, que existe la posibilidad de ejercitar día a día esta soberanía individual, de disfrutar la soberanía individual, pero requiere esfuerzo, requiere trabajo y requiere gallinas. ¿Quién conoce a Gallina Satoshi? Gallina Satoshi, Satoshi the hen, is my hen, and it's very popular in my podcast. And I have chickens in my backyard. I live not in like a ranch or anything. I live in just like a suburban area, and I have small area dedicated to raising chickens and raising growing some food. I have a different kind of chilies and tomatoes and all kind of things. And I cannot describe how rewarding it is to go to your backyard, pick a fresh tomato, pick some lettuce, grab fresh eggs, cook breakfast. It's an incredible experience. And it's part of these pillars that I've been working on over the years. And now we have quail, and it has been a path of discovery. I'm going to tell you a very funny story. Les voy a contar la historia de las codornices. Every day I sit in my live stream and I answer all sorts of questions. And one of my oldest subscribers asked me, what's the most efficient and easy way to produce protein in a small space? Uno de mis suscriptores más antiguos me preguntó cuál era la forma más eficiente, productiva y fácil de producir proteína en un espacio pequeño. So I took the challenge. I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And that's how I came to raising quails. And they're super fast to raise, they're super cheap, they're super productive, and you can raise them in a space not bigger than this corner. You can feed a family of 4 with probably this space. En un espacio como de este tamaño, puedes tener codornices para alimentar una familia de 4. So I took the challenge. My wife, I hope she's not looking. We're not live streaming, right? So my wife's not looking? Okay. So she told me that we couldn't have any more animals. Right? So I'm an engineer, of course. Of course I'm going to figure out some loophole. Mi esposa me dijo que no podíamos tener más animales, que ya con las gallinas y ya. Entonces soy ingeniero, por supuesto que iba a buscar la forma de hacerlo. So I ordered fertile eggs from eBay. And I hatched my own eggs. I built my incubator with a styrofoam cooler and a bulb and a reptile temperature sensor. And I hatched my own eggs. So, kept my word. I didn't bring more animals. I just made them at home. So, lo que hice fue pedir huevos fértiles. Los compré en Amazon porque me comprometí con mi esposa que no iba a traer más animales, pero no hablamos nada de no crear animales en casa. Entonces, pedí huevos en Amazon, huevos fértiles, los puse en una incubadora improvisada, la construí con una hielera de unicel, le puse un foco, le puse un sensor de los que utilizan para las peceras de reptiles y produje mis propias codornices en casa. So that's how I came to raise quail. And from that has been like a very interesting journey. Right now we're developing a Quail Keeper app, and we're going to have this all Quail University and all that spin-off of this crazy idea of someone asking on a live stream, how can I feed my family very fast, very cheap, and in a small space? So it has been a very interesting journey of self-sufficiency, self-sovereignty, and it's a kind of life that I wish more people could experience, could share. And how are we on time?
Maybe some questions. ¿Tienen preguntas? ¿Una pregunta?
Well, just before I leave, because that's, I want to make a little bit more emphasis on the title and the part of the bullets. I know El Salvador, for the first time in decades, is experiencing a very peaceful period. The current government, and I'm not fan of any government, I have to underline that. I'm not fond of any government. No soy fan de ningún gobierno. Pero el gobierno actual ha sido eficaz en reducir el tema de la violencia en El Salvador, que lamentablemente, como los presentadores anteriores comentaban, el tema de la violencia fue un tema que devastó El Salvador por décadas. Están viviendo un periodo de relativa calma. Sin embargo, la parte de la seguridad personal y para los que estamos involucrados en Bitcoin es un nivel un poco más, más alto en términos de estar alerta, porque mucha gente asume de que si estás en Bitcoin eres millonario. A lot of people, just because you're involved in Bitcoin, they assume that you have like millions, and we become targets. So I want to bring awareness to that point, even for people living here in El Salvador who are enjoying a rather peaceful period, to be aware of that it's not something that we have to take lightly, because if we're involved in Bitcoin, and the longer you've been involved in Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter how much you actually have. There's gonna be people that assume that you have probably way more. And who's familiar with Jameson Loop? ¿Alguien conoce a Jameson Loop? Jameson Loop tiene un récord bastante extenso de ataques específicamente dirigidos a Bitcoiners. Recomiendo ese recurso, recomiendo que lo lean. Jameson Loop has a very detailed record of incidents involving Bitcoiners, and unfortunately, like violent incidents and kidnappings and all that stuff. And I do recommend to keep an eye on that list, because we have to take care of each other. And we're first responders, and no one's coming to save us but you. You can save yourself, and I hope you do, and I hope you join us in this extraordinary journey of individual sovereignty and self-sufficiency and fulfillment for what we are building for next generations. Many of the things that I spoke about in terms of rights of self-preservation, the right to enjoy the fruit of my labor, those are not my rights. I don't consider myself to be owner of those rights. I'm a custodian of them. And I cannot give those rights away, because I'm not the owner. I'm just the custodian. And I'm doing everything I can to make sure that future generations are able to enjoy at least those rights that I have enjoyed during my life. And I think that's an idea and a thought that moves me every day and makes me get up and sit in front of a computer and talk to people over and over and over and over. Para cerrar la parte en español, estos derechos de los que hablábamos, el derecho a la preservación de la vida, el derecho a la preservación del fruto de tu trabajo, no soy dueño de esos derechos, y me parece reprobable la idea de que yo puedo ceder esos derechos a nombre de futuras generaciones. Yo me considero custodio de esos derechos y tengo la misión personal y la responsabilidad de asegurarme que futuras generaciones disfruten como mínimo los derechos que yo he disfrutado a lo largo de mi vida. No puedo renunciar a esos derechos a nombre de futuras generaciones. Y quiero agradecerte que me hayas acompañado en esta sesión. Thank you very much for listening to my ideas, and I hope you were able to grab something out of it, take something home, and raise chickens.
Thank you so much, Felipe, for doing an English and Spanish presentation, porque si es necesario, hay muchas personas aquí que hablan español o inglés. Y gracias por compartirnos todas las ideas. I agree with you, we need to be more sovereign, not just in our money, but in our life.
That's the start, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the start.
Okay, thank you very much. Another applause, please, for Felipe.
Perdón, any questions? If anyone has any questions about chickens, tomatoes, Band-Aids, bullets, or whatever, yeah? Criptomonedas TV.
Well,
Okay. Thank you very much. Gracias.
thank you, Felipe.